wait a little bit, just make sure everything's kind of going. You know the microphone is on too. Just mute it. Hi, my name is Tami Yamashita. I'm the president of the Buddhist temple of Salinas. In the next 2 hours, we will be airing live stream YouTube programs that consist of various pre-recorded messages, presentations. I hope you will enjoy them. As you know, for the last 2 years, we have not been able to hold Obon Festival due to COVID-19. So this year, same thing, we were prevented from scheduling the Obon. So in lieu of having the Obon Festival, we decided to air a number of programs for your view. We will be showing the program shortly after this video, so that you have opportunity to see at your leisure anytime after the live streaming. So we will have at least 2 hours of programming, consisting of programs such as explaining what Obon Festival is, what is the origin, the type of activities that one expects to see in Obon Festival. We also will present some programming to introduce our temple, our history, some photographs, some of the background information concerning our temple. We will also have demonstration videos, entertainment videos, for example, by San Jose Taiko that was recorded in previous years. So please enjoy, and we would like to have feedback if you like our programming. We'd like to hear whatever you might think that we should improve on this type of programming. In the future, a year from now, we hope to do the actual Obon Festival, and we can do this type of live programming simultaneously. So we look forward to be able to do more of the same in the future. So this past 2 years has been very, very difficult for us, as well as for many other temples in our umbrella Buddhist Temple Association. And the Obon Festival for all the temples, including ours, is the biggest fundraising event for the year. Not having able to do the Obon, of course, has had major consequence to our financial situations. We are doing the best we can, and any support that you can provide us during this time of difficulty would be much appreciated. Again, without much ado, we will begin our programming shortly. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Tom Yamashita. I'm the president of Buddhist Temple of Salinas. This year, in 2021, we are unable to hold the Obon Festival because of the COVID-19 situation. Same thing happened to us last year, so this is the second year in a row where we were prevented from having a usual Obon Festival. Therefore, instead of the Obon Festival, we are presenting this video to talk about what Obon Festival is, what we do, and talk a little bit about the history of where the Obon Festival comes from. I hope you enjoy this presentation. What is the Obon Festival? Well, Obon Festival is usually held on last Sunday of July for the Buddhist Temple of Salinas. It is the biggest fundraising event for the temple every year. It is where we obtain funds to support the temple for its upkeep. It has been going on since 1960. And 2020 and 2021 is only the second time the Obon Festival was canceled due to COVID-19. The only other time that the Obon Festival was canceled was 1995 when the temple was constructing the multi-purpose building, and the construction work prevented the Obon Festival from being held. Obon Festival is held by every temple in the Buddhist Churches of America network. There are over close to 60 temples in our network, and for every single temple, the Obon Festival has become the biggest event that the temples hold every year. So what happens at the Obon Festival? Well, it is mostly foods, many Japanese foods. We serve sushi, udon, tempura, gyoza, teriyaki chicken, lumpia, beef shish kebab, and the box lunch. We serve drinks, sake, beer, and many different kinds of refreshments. We have entertainment, we have singing, dance, and one of the biggest event draw is the performance by the famous San Jose Taiko. We have demonstrations of all kinds, flower arrangements, bonsai, tea ceremony, Shorinji Kempo, also Kung Fu, and Kendo. We have exhibits such as flower arrangements and bonsai. We do temple Buddhist information is provided where you are interested in Buddhism or temple. We have materials for you to read. We have games for kids, raffle prizes, raffle tickets for prizes that we announce at the end of the Obon Festival. We have sales of flowers, plants, vegetables, fruits, crafts, and t-shirts. And finally, we perform Obon dance, where everyone can join in and have a good time learning how to do Japanese style Obon dance. So here are some examples of some of the food that we serve at the Obon Festival. You have yaki onigiri. It's a rice bowl cooked over barbecue with soy sauce, shish kebabs. They're very, very tasty. We have udon, and we're quite proud to say that the udon made by Salinas is quite famous. It's considered one of the best udon anywhere. We have tempura, and of course beer, and we also have sake. Here, the guys are serving sake, which is served hot or cold. We have beer on tap, and our members are very, very busy cooking various foods. This is our tempura booth. Uh, it's quite hot, but the tempura comes out quite nice and tasty. Here's an example of ladies selling various types of sushi. We have crafts for sale. We sell raffle tickets for various items to be awarded at the end of the Obon festivals. We have a booth where we provide information on our temple and Buddhism. And we have things like t-shirts and various temple items for sale. We also sell flowers, vegetables, fruit. One can get very good deals on these items at the Obon Festival. We have a large gym. It's called the multi-purpose facility, where you can sit down and enjoy your food and the company of your friends. And we also provide entertainment on our stage, various singing, dancing, things of that sort. And of course, our biggest performing act would be the San Jose Taiko. They're quite famous and very, very exciting to listen to. This is a photograph of the Shorinji Kempo, or also called Kung Fu. Originates in China, of course, but it is a very good demonstration. We also have our own Kendo club within our temple, and they provide a demonstration of their activity as well. We have a very good uh, presentation of various flower arrangements provided by the flower arrangement club, and it's very, very beautiful and very interesting to look at. Also, superb collection of bonsai by the Bonsai Club of Monterey, where they show off their bonsai, some of them which are quite old, and this is quite valuable. The flower arrangement people holds a demonstration of how it is done, and the same thing by the Bonsai Club. In the main temple hall, we hold a tea ceremony demonstration every year. You see the people holding the tea ceremony, and it is narrated by the announcer. Here's a close-up what that looks like. So after the tea ceremony demonstration, everyone that is interested can have a taste of the tea that is used in the tea ceremony, along with some sweets to enjoy the tea. And we have a booth run by the temple kids. Many types of different games are provided. And finally culminating in the Obon dance, Bon Odori it is called, where everybody can join in and go around this stage and learn how to do the Japanese style Obon dance. So now let's talk about the origin of the Obon festival. Obon comes from the Ulambana Sutra, which is a Mahayana sutra that teaches about filial piety. It's about a story that takes place during Buddha's time with his one of the key disciples of Buddha, and it is put down in text several hundred years after Buddha has passed away. Ulambana became an annual observance called Urabon-e in Japanese, but its origin is in China. But this practice of Urabon was certainly well before the Buddhism was transmitted to China. It occurred shortly after Buddha's passing. So it goes way back in time, probably well over 2,000 years. It became shortened to Bon, or honorific title of Obon in Japan, taking the character Bon from Urabon-e. So this is a Chinese character, Urabon-e. So the Japanese basically shortened it by taking this character Bon from Urabon-e. Bon, actually, the meaning of the character literally means a tray or a platter. It seems that there's no connection between the character, the meaning of the character, to the Urabon-e. They just used the phonetic sound of Bon to fit the Urambana. So that's the usual story, but there are some theory that the Bon actually was used, that this character Bon was used because it refers to the platter or tray that the Buddhist monk used to carry to ask for alms and food from the lay people. So there may have been some deeper meaning for the use of this character. The Chinese, of course, because it originated there from the Japanese perspective, observed the same thing called Yuran Penhui. I hope I pronounced it correctly, or a ghost festival. And this festival is widespread in China, in Burma, Southeast Asia. It's all observed around July 15th. Now, in Japan, it used to be held around the same time, but Japanese being practical people from the Meiji era, which is 150 years ago, had moved to August 15th to make it more convenient to avoid some of the busy agricultural uh, times around the July time period. So it was moved to August. Continuing on the origin of Obon festival, the word Ulambana is a story about Moggallana. Uh, this is also known as Magdagalayana in Sanskrit. In Japan, he is called Mokuren with this character, which comes from Chinese. I'm not sure how they pronounce it. This is a common written name for him in Japanese and English. So Moggallana was one of the important disciples of Buddha. In fact, he was one of the top two um, disciples of Buddha, the other being Shariputra, was also very famous. So there's an image of Moggallana. Apparently this statue is of Sri Lankan origin, and he's depicted in this bluish body. It comes from the Buddhist scripture that describe him as blue as a blue lotus. So that description stuck, and he's often depicted in this manner. Another feature of Moggallana was that he was apparently a very handsome person, described as pleasing to the eye. It's possible that there was a mistranslation from the original text. It's speculated, I read somewhere, that it just meant that he had darker complexion, not necessarily blue. So getting back to the word Ulambana, the word itself, the origin is somewhat unclear, but the most accepted version is that it comes from two words, ulam, which means hung upside down in Sanskrit, and second word, bana, means to deliver or deliverance or rescue. Uh, uh, and additionally, it has this double meaning of basin or container for food. So as I mentioned previously, the character we use for Obon, it's not only sound the same, it's had this double meaning of being a tray. And combined, it means deliverance from hell. So why is this explanation? Well, Moggallana or Mokuren was a very talented monk, and he supposedly had psychic powers where he can peer into things that most human beings cannot reach, including seeing where people ended up after death. So he was concerned about his mother that had passed away. And apparently his mother was not necessarily a very good person. So he was concerned about her well-being after her passing, and he finds her in the Buddhist version of hell. And he found her hanging upside down, suffering greatly. So that's what this ulam bana, the word, might have come from. Now, Mokuren was able to save her by following Buddha's suggestion, and this is a story of where the Ulambana story comes from. And It'd be better if you listen to the explanation of the story from Shinseki Sensei. It was given, Reverend Shinseki gave last year at our temple on the story of Mokuren and the story of Obon. So before that, I also like to add that there's a theory that the word comes from a word urban, meaning ghost, in ancient Zoroaster language, which was a language used in Persia. This language is much more older than uh, the language that was being used in Buddha's time, and they were familiar with this language, and it's thought that maybe they might have used this word urban, meaning ghosts, from that time period. So here's Shinseki Sensei's video. Going to try to play it here.
In a way, helps us and reminds us of the importance and the significance of Obon. You know, this is typically most people who are not familiar with our temples see Obon as a festival. For us who are more intimately connected to the temple, Obon is a memorial. It honors those who have died in the last year, but also it honors all of our family members, all of our ancestors who have passed away. And so it's an important service, and it's an important time of the year. So I do hope that you are, in a way, observing Obon in your homes by honoring your family members who have died. I think many of you know the story of Obon. And the word Obon comes from the sutra, the Ulamana Sutra. And it's a point in the Buddha's life when one of his disciples by the name of Moggallana, or Mokuden, have a conversation about Mokuden's mother. See, Mokuden was a great disciple who had wonderful powers of deep meditation. And in these moments of deep meditation, he was able to see beyond this world which you and I live in. He was able to see beyond that. He was able to see the 7 levels of existence in Buddhism. And once while in deep meditation, he saw his mother in the world of the Gaki. The Gaki is the world of hungry ghosts. It represents insatiable desires. And when Mokuden saw his mother in this Gaki realm, she was hanging upside down. And she was suffering. She was thirsty, she was hungry. And so Mokuden, he attempted to give her some water, give her some food. But as the food and water came closer to her, they would burst into flames. This only aggravated her intense desire and suffering even more. So Mokuden didn't know what to do. He wanted to help his mother. So he went to see the Buddha. And in this conversation with the Buddha told him, you know, that your mother is hanging upside down in this realm of the Gaki because of her great desire to take care of you. And she put all of her attention on you. And to the point where her desires overcame her. And her desire for you, Mokuden. So this is the reason she's there. And there's really nothing you can do to help her. But what you can do is you can hold a memorial service in your memory. You can light candles, burn incense. You can then have a feast, feed the monks, practice dana. And so with this, Mokuden held a memorial service for his mother, had a feast, fed the monks, gave them clothing. And with these acts, Mokren saw his mother released from the agony of the realm of the Gaki. And when he saw this, he danced for joy. This is the beginning of Obon. And that dance for joy, we call, in Japanese, we call Obon kangie. It's a gathering of joy. And yes, it's so much fun to have a festival, to be able to dance and to eat and to drink and to see people. But also, this gathering of joy means that we are able to be alive. We're able to enjoy life because of our family members. When we lose someone, no matter how old they are, there's still there's an emptiness in our hearts that can never be filled. And still, we want to do something for our loved ones. We want to do something, but we cannot. We feel hopeless. There are many things we wish we could say to our parents, our friends, uncles, aunts, but we cannot. So we feel helpless. And although we tell ourselves we have no regrets about their passing, there are still things we wish we could have done, things we wish we could have said. And so we feel helpless. Now this is very natural for us as human beings to have these feelings. But now that our loved ones have passed away, we must find other ways to express the love and concern. We must find other ways to express our gratitude to them for all that we have received. That's what Obon is all about, an opportunity to do that. Many years ago, I remember conducting a memorial service for a family. And I lived in a temple housing. And typically, when you live in temple housing, there's no neighborhood. It's not within a neighborhood. So there's no one living around us. And we had this memorial service. And my son was very young. And this family that was observing the memorial had children his age. So after the service, we were having dinner, and he and the rest of the children were outside playing, having a great time. And as it got later into the night, the family had to leave, and we went back home. And I remember my son wanting to go outside and play some more, even though the other families had left. He had such a wonderful time that he really wanted to go back outside. But we kept him inside, and he started to cry. He started to lay on the floor, roll around, crying and crying and crying. And I thought, oh, so kawaii so. I felt so bad for him, that he was so sad, because these opportunities for him didn't come around often. And he really wanted to go back outside and play some more. Well, I thought about that for a long time. And I thought about, what can I do to ease his anxiety? What can I do to ease his suffering, stop his crying? And so he went to bed, and I fretted over this for a long time, this is my son. How can I help him? Well, the next day, as you can imagine, he woke up and he was fine. And I remember telling my wife, gosh, I wish there was something that we could do to help him, to ease his pain and his anxiety. And she says, look at him. He's fine. You're the one that's all wigged out. You're the one that is full of anxiety. You're the one that needs help. So I realized that it was I who was feeling helpless. My son was fine. I needed to do something about my anxiety. This is the message that Shakyamuni gave to Mokren that day, thousands of years ago. He told Mokuren, nothing you can do in your power can help your mother. All you can do is hold this memorial service and have a feast. In the same way, there was nothing I could do to help my son. He was fine. Your family members, they are fine. It is our anxiety that the Buddha is concerned about. So Shakyamuni Buddha, he told Mokuren, of course your mother did all she could for you, and you should be grateful for that. But now is the opportunity for you to express all that you were not able to do before, all that you were not able to say before. Now is an opportunity to do that, to do all that you wish you could have done. And so that is why after the memorial service, Mokuren was freed from his anxiety. He leapt into the air with joy. And that is why we call it Kamiye, a gathering of joy. Again, it's natural for us to miss our loved ones. It's natural for us to be anxious about them. But we have to understand that it is our anxiety, that the Buddha is directing his compassion and his great wisdom towards you and I. So we have this time, this Obon season. We light candles, we burn incense, we make offerings of flour and fruit. And there are lights that burn brightly on the altar that remind us of the boundless life of your family members. That light is a reminder of what we have received and how their life continues to take effect upon all of us. And it's through the words Namo Amida Butsu that we can express all of these thoughts, all of these words, all of the things we want to say and wish we could say and wish we could do. All those deeds, they are in Namo Amida Butsu. And these are the things that we wish to bestow upon our family members. But all we have to do is say Namo Amida Butsu. So today, as we observe July Shotsuki Hoyo and Hatsumon here in Salinas, we are reminded that we have of what we have received and what we continue to receive from our family members. It is a great time for us to express all that we wish to say, all that we wish to do. Therefore, it is a time of great joy. And just like Mokuren, we celebrate life, we leap for joy for what we have received in gratitude to our loved ones. Thank you very much. Please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.
So this ends presentation on the Obon and the story of the Obon festival. Thank you for watching. Hi everyone. This slide presentation was created to introduce everyone to the Buddhist temple of Salinas. I would like to talk briefly about the history of our temple, what we are all about, the religion, how we are organized, and other information that you might find interesting about our temple. Now, the information on our temple can be found on our temple website, www.btsalinas.org, where you can find much more detailed information on our history and also on our religion, also the type of activity that we have. We have a, a temple YouTube channel, Buddhist Temple of Salinas, where we post weekly sermon. We call it the Dharma Talk. You can find many sermons from previous weeks, almost a year. We also have a temple Facebook page with Buddhist Temple of Salinas with the handle of Buddhist Temple of Salinas. Here we post a shortened version of the Dharma talk, also topic of some interest to the community. Much more detailed information on our organization, head organization, and many religious material is found at our Buddhist Churches of America website, www.buddhistchurchesofamerica.org. Additional historical information can be found also at the Asian Cultural Experience, or ACE, at www.salinasace.org. This organization works to preserve the cultural heritage of Asian communities in Salinas, Monterey area. We are located on 14 California Street, Salinas, and this is a Google satellite image of what our temple facility looks like. Our main temple is this structure here. It was built relatively recently, and this is where we have the hondo, or the main altar for our temple. We have a large multi-purpose facility. It's basically a gym and kitchen facility where we can hold large gatherings, and we have a Kendo group that uses the facility for their practice. This building here is a parsonage house to house the temple minister. We are located in the heart of what was previously the Chinatown of Salinas. This the history of the area is that in pre-war, the Asian community, the Japanese, Chinese, the Filipinos were basically congregated in this area in Salinas. It was due to segregation that occurred in the past, and our forefathers started their life here in this area in Salinas, starting from the early 1800s. So now I'd like to talk about the history of our Buddhist temple in Salinas. This is a very brief outline of our history. More detailed information can be found in our website, and there will be a pictorial presentation that follows this at a later time on this web stream. The Japanese immigrants began to arrive in Salinas to work in the sugar fields in the late 1800s. This is in the heyday of the Spreckels sugar factory. The Salinas had a very large production of sugar beets that was feeding the sugar uh, uh, plant operated by the Spreckels Sugar Company. Large established Japanese community around Chinatown uh, was established by 1920s. Many families were living in the Chinatown area by then. And the Salinas Buddhist temple was organized and established on March 9, 1924. The present location on 14 California Street was acquired by October 12, 1924. The construction for the temple began in January 1926, and it was completed by the same year. In 1929, the first YMBA, which stands for Young Men's Buddhist Association, hall was built to hold Japanese school, basically a language school, sports activities, and other temple functions. Much of it for sports activity for young men and women of the temple. The significant event for the temple was the 10th anniversary in 1934. A bonsho, which is the bell tower, was brought. The bell itself was brought from Japan, and the bell tower was erected. And this was done with much fanfare. And since then, this bell tower and the bell has become the iconic symbol of Buddhist Temple of Salinas. Now, February 19, 1942, the Executive Order 9066 was issued by President Roosevelt authorizing internment of all Japanese. This is, of course, following the Pearl Harbor attack by Japan, followed by 1 day later the declaration of war on Japan by President Roosevelt. And this was in the late 1941, and by February there was a concerted effort to remove all Japanese Americans from their homes and relocate them into the internment camps. So this was a huge blow to the Japanese community. They were forcibly moved to live in the camp for several years during the war. So 1945, few Japanese family began to come back from the internment camp. This was as a result of actually a Supreme Court decision. It's a very famous one called Korematsu versus United States, where the Supreme Court on 6-3 decision decided that the forcible internment of Japanese Americans were unconstitutional, forcing the U.S. government to release everyone from the internment camps. So many people attempted to come back from the camp to Salinas, but there was a very, very serious blowback or resistance by the community to prevent Japanese from returning back to Salinas. So before the war, there were probably over 300 families in in Salinas Buddhist temple alone, there were many families that belonged to the Christian uh, Lincoln Presbyterian Church as well. Very few came back, actually, back to Salinas. And out of the 300 temple family members, only about 26, 27 families initially returned back to Salinas. However, by August 26, 1946, the temple did manage to hold a 20th anniversary of the founding of the temple. This was sort of a redemption for the people to be able to hold this service. In 1947, there was extensive damage done to the YMBA hall. This was quickly restored. And 1948, there was a Lee's parsonage house next to the YMBA hall, and this was completely destroyed by fire, and this was by arson. So one can see the type of situation that our members faced post-war. By late 1960s, large influx of Japanese Issei, that's the first generation Japanese flower growers, started to move into Salinas. And this caused a big increase in the temple membership, and nearly doubling the size of the temple, which led to a major renovation and expansion of the temple. In 1974, groundbreaking for the new temple facility was made for the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the temple founding. And by 1976, the new temple building was completed. This is the current existing temple. It was built at that time. By 1995, the current multi-purpose hall was built. The previous building that was there was demolished to make room to build this new hall. This is the current building that stands today. And the dedication ceremony was held on the occasion of the 70th anniversary of the founding of the Buddhist temple. And this was delayed by 1 year, of course. And the 1999, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the founding of our temple. In 2014, we celebrated the 90th anniversary, and in 2024, we hope to celebrate the 100th year of the temple founding. So this is something that we are looking forward to. Now, let me show some of the photographs of what our buildings look like. This is our main hondo, the main altar. Again, this was built in 1976 time period. It is a beautiful facility with which can hold 300-400 people. This is a close-up of our altar. And by the way, our altar was installed in the 1920s, and just a few years ago, it was beautifully restored by sending all the parts back to Japan, Kyoto. And at some great expense, it was completely refurbished, resurfaced with new gold leaf. It is a beautiful altar. Here's a picture of the Amida Buddha. The Amida Buddha is the Buddha that we pay our respect to. Uh, it's the Buddha of the Jodo Shinshu sect of our of uh, uh, of our sect. Excuse me. This is the picture of the multi-purpose hall. This is the exterior view. Inside, we have a large modern kitchen where we use for various purposes for holding large events like the Obon festival, for example. This is the gym. It can be used for athletic events, and it is the home of our Salinas Kendo Club. So this is all the trophies that they have won over the years. Now, of course, we use it for Obon Festival, where we could literally have hundreds of people sit and enjoy the food, for example. And so I talked about the Bonsho, which is a bell tower, was built on the 10th anniversary of our founding, 1934, with great fanfare. And it's been renovated several times since, but it still stands. And it is, as I mentioned, the iconic symbol of our temple. Here's a picture of the bell. It was imported from Japan. And at the time, it was the largest bell of its type that was ever shipped to U.S. It is quite heavy. I'm not sure exactly how much it weighs, probably a ton. Interesting story is that shortly after the war started, the Salinas police demanded that the temple take down this bell. Their reasoning was that the bell can be used to signal the Japanese military from landing in Monterey, which sounds ridiculous, but at the time it was a serious charge brought to us by the police and the city council, actually. And temple members had to lower this. I'm not quite sure how they did it, but during the time when everyone was at the internment camp, this bell was stored in the base of the bell tower so that it could not be damaged or people to do things to it. So there it stayed until the members were able to come back. So as I mentioned, this is it is an iconic symbol of our temple. Now, let me talk a little bit about our sect, our religion. Shinran, in 1224, he completes his famous book, a manuscript called Kyogo Shinsho. It's his manuscript describing his interpretation of Pure Land Buddhism, usually translated as the true teaching, practice, and realization of the Pure Land way. He was 51 years old at the time. So we consider this year the founding year of our sect. And I should mention that the leadership of our sect has been passed down to the descendant of Shinran for many, many generations to the present day. I should mention one of the more famous, important head of our sect was Renyo. He lived in 1415 to 1499. He was the 8th Hoshu. Hoshu means head abbot of our sect. He is credited with greatly expanding our sect, emphasizing the teaching of Shinran to the masses. So Japan, during those times, was a very stratified society with clear division between the warriors, the farmers, the merchants, and so on. He preached to the masses, the non-samurais, and this expanded the followers to our sect by huge numbers. More recent times, I should mention our 22nd head abbot, Hoshu Kozui Otani. He was a leader of our sect from 1903 to 1914. The reason for mentioning him is that during his tenure, he greatly expands the reach of the Honganji temple network to overseas. This is when the sect expands into Hawaii, US, Canada, and also into South America. Current head abbot, he's called Monshu now. He's the 25th Monshu. His name is Kojun Otani. He started his tenure in 2014. He's still a relatively young guy. So I believe he's 44 years old. So he'll be our head abbot for a long time. So I should also mention that after World War II, the head abbot started to be called Monshu. He used to be called Hoshu, Hoshu, before the war. So after the war, the title changed to Monshu. Or by the honorific title, we call him Go-Monshu. We add the word Go ahead of the title. So that's our leader, Kojun Otani. Our current Buddhist temple Salinas minister is Reverend J. Shinseki. He is a supervising minister for our temple. This title is due to the fact that we do not have a current resident minister. He's actually a resident minister of Monterey and Watsonville Temple. So he is administering to our needs on a temporary basis until such time that we are able to obtain our own minister. This photograph was taken March 23, 2014 for the 90th anniversary of the temple. This was the last time that the temple had a group photograph of this type. The next one will not occur until the 100th anniversary, which will be 2024. So for this occasion, we had the bishop of the BCA at the time, Bishop Umezu, this person here, and all of our resident minister and the former resident minister of our temple at the time. Our resident minister, I think, was Reverend Fujikawa here with his wife. Former resident minister, Reverend Matsubayashi, Takemura, and Reverend Shinseki. He was minister for us for several years, many years ago. On special occasions like this, we dress up our kids in a attire that goes back to the Heian period. This is like the year 600 or several hundred, year, and they are called Ochigo-san. It's to make sure that the kids grow up to be righteous and honorable adults in the future. So this only happens on the important events in our temple. That's the introduction to our temple. I hope you enjoyed. Hello everyone. We're coming to you live from Buddhist temple Salinas, Hondo, our main altar. We're taking a short break here because we have a new video that we'd like to insert. It's going to take a little bit of time to do that, to set up. So we decided to take a break here. So program will be inserted. It will cause us to run a little more than we have planned, but you can watch this anytime at your leisure and parts of the video that you are really interested. Sometime in the future, hopefully near future, we may reorganize these videos into a more complete video. It was put together fairly quickly, therefore it's not very well polished. This is the first time we do something like this, but we are learning by doing this type of thing, and hopefully we will be able to do this better as we practice this more often. So today was an important day for us. Normally today would have been the day that we will hold the Obon festival. Instead we had a Obon service, and it was the first time in over a year that we were able to hold a in-person general service for our members. So it was a good occasion to see some of our friends, and at the same time we were showing this service by YouTube video also. So given the current COVID situation, it looks like we will have to continue like this for some time to come. We still are wearing masks in our temple, trying to keep some distance between everyone, and trying to follow a safe protocol for doing in-person service at the temple. Hopefully by next year we will be able to go back to holding our usual Obon festival, and everyone can enjoy the food that we make and enjoy the company.
We can start kind of the kendo
Okay,
video.
so what we have now is changing the schedule. We will be showing I believe it's 20 minutes kendo demonstration video. This is by our Salinas Kendo Dojo. They will be posting this on their website as well, so you can see on both places. So that's it. Please enjoy, continue watching the video. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Shuichi Bunden and I am a member of the Salinas Kendo Club. In the following 10 minutes or so, I will attempt to describe what Kendo is, provide some history of our organization, and explain some of the benefits outside of Kendo. So what is Kendo? Kendo translates to Ken, which means sword, and Do, which means path or way up. Kendo is a martial art where we try to better ourselves through the study of the sword and how to efficiently use it. Historically, Kendo is the evolved form of training methods used by the samurai. The armor or bogu we currently use has not changed much from the earliest images that can be found. The bamboo sword or shinai incorporates elements to represent key parts of the samurai's katana. The string or tsuru represents the mune or back of the blade. The nakayui roughly represents what would be the cutting sweet spot of the blade. These and many other elements combine to allow the kendo practitioner to seek self-improvement in a similar way the samurai would centuries ago, to recreate the feeling of being in a duel. Obviously, current methods are much safer. There are 3 main striking locations with 1 extra location for advanced practitioners. They are the men, top of the head, kote, right forearm, and do, side abdomen areas. The extra location for advanced kendoka is the tsuki or throat. In the United States, practitioners that hold at least a 1 dan rank or first degree black belt are allowed to use the strike in competition. There are other valid striking areas as well depending on the situation, but the 4 described previously are the primary focus. Here are 2 of our sensei demonstrating some of the basic strikes. Unlike in many sports, simply striking a valid target is not good enough in kendo to constitute a valid strike. If the strike is weak, the body is contorted in a weird posture, or the striker's spirit hints that it was an accident or lacks intention, then it will not be ruled a point. All 3 elements, spirit, sword, and body, must be unified during the strike. Additionally, readiness after the strike must be displayed to be eligible for a point. One of the exercises which focus on these ideals the most is the one we usually start off with, kirikaishi. From the opening kakegoe, or shout, building up spirit, to the finishing attentive turn, one must utilize all three elements while connecting with their partner to execute the exercise properly. Here is Shinji Sensei demonstrating kirikaishi. In Kendo, there are periodic tournaments where one tests their skills against those with a similar rank or age range. Pre-COVID, in Northern California, there was a tournament on average every 2 to 3 months. However, many of our club members travel to a lot of tournaments in Southern California and other areas of the United States to further test their skills. Matches in these settings help the participant determine where his or her strengths and weaknesses are. Every match starts and ends with a bow. You are showing respect to your opponent and thanking them for helping you to better yourself. With this element of respect and gratitude, overt celebratory displays or trying to show up your opponent are not allowed. The following are some clips from tournament matches in recent years. Now I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the Salinas Kendo Club. The dojo was founded in 1970 by Takuma Bunden Sensei. Bunden Sensei, who would eventually earn the rank of 7-dan Hanshi, learned Kendo prior to his immigration to the United States in Japan. Since the club's founding, he has passed on his knowledge to many students both here locally and nationally. A few of Bunden Sensei's strongest students have remained in the area and are now the sensei which have continued and expanded upon his teachings. Our head instructor is Jimmy Eitoku Sensei. Eitoku Sensei has competed internationally and nationally since his early days as a youth. He was the first student of the club. In recent US championships, Eitoku Sensei has won an individual senior championship and is a member of the 2-time defending team national champion as a representative of the Northern California Kendo Federation. Eitoku Sensei currently holds the rank of 7-dan. Yuji Onitsuka Sensei has also been active nationally and internationally for virtually all his life. He has competed as a member of Team USA 4 times at the Triennial World Championships. After his competitive days, he transitioned to being a coach or manager multiple times. He holds the special distinction of being the coach of the US men's team that handed Japan their only loss in the history of the World Championships. Onitsuka Sensei currently holds a rank of 7-dan and is the Vice President of Competition for the All United States Kendo Federation. Shinji Onitsuka Sensei started Kendo along with his older brother Yuji and is also a former Team USA member. He practices alongside his 2 daughters, and the oldest, Aika, is a current member of the Women's Team USA and has won multiple individual junior national titles. Onitsuka Sensei is 6-dan. Hitoshi Tanabe Sensei practiced Kendo as a youth in Japan and picked it up again as an adult. He practices alongside his wife and their 3 kids, Mario, Keita, and Luna. Both Mario and Keita have top 2 finishes at junior national tournaments. Keita was selected as part of a junior Team USA which competed at a prominent youth tournament in Japan in 2019 in the role as team captain. Tanabe Sensei currently holds the rank of 5-dan. Eddie Hurt Sensei started Kendo at the age of 40. There aren't many instances where someone starts Kendo at that age and progresses to achieve Sensei status. However, he's definitely proof that it can be done with dedication, hard work, and good instruction. Hurt Sensei is currently 4-dan. In addition to our Kendo Sensei, we are fortunate to have an Iaido Sensei within our ranks, Cynthia Tanabe Sensei. Iaido is the martial art which emphasizes maintaining awareness and drawing the sword in response to surprise attacks. She trained in her early years in the art of Shinkage-ryu swordsmanship in Nagoya, Japan. Tanabe Sensei holds the rank of 6th Dan in Iaido. Additionally, she is 2 Dan in Kendo. The Salinas Kendo Club enjoys a strong tradition of producing high-level practitioners. When you consider the smaller area within which we draw from, it is even more impressive. Since the inception of the World Kendo Championships in 1970, the Salinas Kendo Club has had either a competitor, coach, or manager on the team 13 out of the 17 times. We have sent multiple members 5 times. Salinas Kendo has produced national champions in divisions ranging from young kids to seniors. Since we are slightly smaller than other clubs, our sensei can provide more individualized attention. It would not be surprising to have what amounts to be a 45-minute private lesson with Yuji Sensei one night. When you consider that our sensei have led seminars in various parts of the country and internationally, we are very fortunate in this regard. While we are proud of the achievements of our members on the court, we take even more pride in their achievements off the court, what kind of people they have gone on to become, and connections made. In Kendo, it is very important to maintain eye contact with the opponent. Through this process, the bond between practitioners strengthens, often to the point where you feel like you become extended family. Anyways, you've heard enough from me. Few of our most recent high school graduates have moved on to attend UC Berkeley. Why don't we let them provide some of their perspectives on how Kendo has impacted their lives?
Hi, my name is Amira and I am 20 and I started Kendo in 7th grade.
Hello, my name is Isaiah Vasquez. I am 18 years old and I started Kendo about 6 years ago when I was 12 years old.
Hello, my name is Keita Tanabe. I'm 18 years old and I've been doing Kendo for almost my whole life.
So what initially drew me to Kendo was the fact that I was choosing a sport to do after school. And I was really interested in the etiquette and fighting style that I saw when I first kind of poked my head into the gym. And so after seeing that, I was actually really interested in going into some kind of martial arts since I did Taekwondo before.
My family went to Las Vegas for my brother's wrestling tournament. And while we were there, we went to a pawn shop and the owner started talking to us about Kendo while we were looking around. And when we left, I went and looked it up. And it turned out that there was a Kendo dojo in Salinas, and turns out they were pretty good.
I started Kendo back when I was 6 or 7 years old. At the time, I wasn't really doing anything. I didn't do sports or really music or anything of like after school activities. I just went to school and then came home and then played around with my brother. And my dad, who had been doing Kendo for a long time at that point, decided to have both of us start Kendo.
Kendo is just as much as a spiritual sport as it is a physical one. So a lot of the training focuses on pushing past your body's limit. And so those techniques require a lot of concentration and discipline, which have helped me outside of the sport in my classes and my lessons.
I really like Kendo because I'm a really competitive person. And a lot of the people here are really good, and the way that Kendo is structured, it forced me to be a better person and to do things better and to finish the things that I start. And that really bled into the rest of my life, like into school. I like to think that because of Kendo, I did better in school, and I did better in a lot of my life. And because of that, I'm now at Berkeley, and I'm doing pretty well.
Academically, Kendo has really helped me, in my opinion. I mean, you'd think that getting hit on the head a bunch wouldn't help you when it comes to academics, but all the skills of hard work and perseverance and not finishing until you do it and then always doing a good job, all these things really helped me through school. And helped me to always do my best. And because of that, I haven't gone to college yet, but I was able to graduate from Monterey High School as the valedictorian of this past year, and I'll be going to UC Berkeley for this upcoming academic school year.
Currently, I'm in college, but Kendo does continue through my college life. I'm currently in the Kendo Club. I'm currently the Kendo Club president. So I've met a lot of friends, and I've met a lot of close relationships in my Kendo Club. So yeah, that's the way Kendo has helped me socially.
Yeah, I made a lot of friends through Kendo, a lot of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And I've also done a lot of things that I would have never been able to do. Like, I've gone to Hawaii, and I've been to Japan and Canada, and to different places in the United States, all because of Kendo.
Socially, Kendo has also helped me greatly. My dad's from Japan and my mom's from Texas, so I never really had a lot of family in the area, and I made friends, but a lot of times they weren't that close, or we couldn't hang out all the time. So Kendo really became this like second family for me, because I didn't have any family around, and no like super close family friends outside of Kendo. So all the time when we go to Kendo, it would be, you know, going to see all the people that I like to spend time with, and all the people that really made I don't know how to put it, but they really made life in the area fun for me, at least.
When I hear the name Salinas Kendo Dojo, I just get a sense of like familiarity. I've been in that dojo for my high school and middle school life. It's a very consistent part of my life, and so it's very comfortable to hear that name.
It really brings to mind all of the hard work that I've put into Kendo, and all the people that helped me achieve so many of my goals. It makes me think of my senseis and my senpais and my kohais, and all the people that, you know, helped push me to do my best. And it makes me feel warm inside when I think of all these people, because they're some of the most influential and important people in my life. And I'm grateful to all of them.
One recent development we are excited about is our association with the Alisai High School Kendo Club. Started in 2019 by math teacher and current Salinas Kendo member Ryoji Bunden, the connection with Salinas Kendo provides the members an opportunity to experience elements of the Japanese culture firsthand while getting in a good workout. Prior to COVID, there were about 20 members being taught by the Salinas Kendo Club sensei at Special Tuesday practices. Thanks to generous community and private donations, 17 sets of Kendo armor were purchased for club use. The largest donation by the Salinas Police Officers Association made the local news in late 2019. Here is the perspective of one of the current members.
Hello, my name is Rodrigo Lara and I am 15 years old. I started Kendo during the end of this summer. What drew my attention to Kendo was, well, the sport in general, because it contains a lot of respect. As my skill progresses, I am mostly excited about expanding my knowledge towards the sport and improving my skill set. So far in my experience in the Salinas Kendo Club, it has been great and I'm learning a lot.
Thank you for taking the time to watch our demonstration of Kendo and presentation of our Kendo Club. If you have further questions, please feel free to contact us via email, Facebook, or through our website. We are always looking to grow our Kendo family.
In this slide presentation, we would like to show some series of old photographs is a walk through memory lane, if you will, to cover the history of our temple. This photograph was taken in 1926 when the first altar was brought to Salinas. We're not quite sure what is behind these photographs. It looks like what we call omikoshi. It's used to parade the religious objects through the streets. So maybe that was what was done before the altar was installed into the temple. At least the date we're sure of because it is written there, November 27, 1926. This photograph was taken in November 11, 1934. After the installation of the bell tower. So you could see many children, many young adults, presumably their parents, could perhaps see the size of the congregation to some extent from this picture. You can see all of the old cars, and beyond the temple bell tower is nothing but the fields. Of course, today, the scene behind the temple is completely filled with buildings. So back in these days, the old Chinatown was a fairly isolated piece of plot on the middle of the field. Now, in 1934, in keeping with this, the installation of the bell tower, one of the key executive, you will, of the Nishio Honganji comes to visit U.S. and makes a tour of various temples. And this photograph is a welcoming banquet held in his honor, Renshi Shoujo Otani, at the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco. Certainly it is true today, and it was true back then in 1934. The Fairmont Hotel was one of the top tier hotel in the West Coast. So this must have been a big deal to hold a banquet of this type at a probably expensive and top tier hotel in San Francisco. Now, this Renshi title refers to the one of the family member of the Otani. So I'm not exactly sure who he was, but obviously a fairly important person in the hierarchy of the temple in those days. So this is with many BCA member temple people, I imagine. And during this visit, the Renshi Otani comes to Salinas to commemorate our 10th anniversary of our founding and installation of our bell tower. So this is a fairly remarkable photograph from that time period, and you could see the number of people that belonged to a temple in those days is huge. Hundreds of families were part of our temple at that time period. It is said that the Salinas congregation was one of the largest, and it had up to like 3 resident ministers administering to our needs. This is unheard of. Even the largest temple in our current network do not have that many ministers. So this is a Fox News reel of the installation ceremony that took place at that time. And what you just saw was the Renshi Otani, and the kids dressed up in Wachigo-san garb. The temple tower is a familiar one. This is the Renshi Otani, and it is to install the new belt that was brought over from Japan. It's a remarkable footage. These kids, probably, if they're alive, they're in their 90s and 100s by now. Very few survive, undoubtedly, today. This photograph is dated July 23, 1935, and although the numbers are not quite so large as the previous photograph, there are many members, and you could sort of sense the vitality of the temple back in those days. And the temple supported many youth activities. This is an interesting photograph of the temple baseball team. There are many of these people goes on to become leader of Salinas. Could mention 2 people are notable. The one is Harry Sakasegawa. I believe it is this person here. He goes on to found Harry's Garage, and he was one of the, Harry Sakasegawa is this guy here, excuse me. And he goes on to found a thriving auto mechanic shop in Salinas that was fairly notable for a long time. This person here is George Tanimura. He, of course, is the scion of the Tanimura family of the Tanimura and Anto Corporation. So here he is as a very young man at the baseball team. The young ladies of that time period, 1930s, had their own activity. This looks like a women's basketball team, and many activities that existed at the time that we are aware of. They had a thriving language school, many activities centered around the Buddhist temple during those days. So the event that changed everyone's life was the Pearl Harbor attack of December 7, 1941. And of course, the next day, US declares war on Japan on December 8, 1941. several months, not several months, but immediately afterwards, all the temple ministers were arrested. Also were many Issei leaders, Japanese Issei leaders, and they were all sent to Bismarck, North Dakota for interrogation. What history teaches us very clearly is that the US government, the FBI, were investigating the Japanese nationals, ministers, leaders for many, many years. And they had a dossier, documents, investigations done on Japanese Americans for many years before the Pearl Harbor attack. So when these people were arrested, they were shown fairly thick dossiers, the data that was collected on them over many, many years. So the resident minister of Salinas Temple at the time, Reverend Fujimura, was immediately arrested like the rest of the other ministers, and he was not to see his family for the next year or two. I'm not sure how long. He was eventually relocated to Boston so he could see his wife and kids, but this was a grave injustice done to many, many Japanese and Japanese Americans. Of course, the Japanese that were subsequently put into the relocation camp or internment camp, that was the term that's been used for a long time, but this is a too kind a word to be used for that. They were basically concentration camps in American soil. It is one of the dark period in American history as to what was done to nominally American citizens. So the Executive Order 9066 issued by President Roosevelt on February 19, 1942 for detention of all Japanese and Japanese Americans takes place, and within a few months all of the Japanese on the West Coast, on the continental US, were put into the so-called internment camps. And they had very short time to prepare. Many of them only could take one or two luggage with them, and the people lost everything. Most people have lost everything. So it is one of the greatest injustice done to people in American history at that time. The Salinas Japanese were processed through temporary detention center at the rodeo grounds, then sent to Poston, Arizona relocation center. And there they would stay for over 3 years. Only till January 1940, I think it was 1944, finally the Supreme Court had heard this very famous case, Korematsu versus United States, that effectively ended the detention. They ruled 6-3 in favor of Korematsu, stating that this long-term detention of Japanese American was unconstitutional. So the Roosevelt administration had no choice but to announce that the people in the internment camp will be released. This occurred at the end of 1944, I believe, and people started to be released in early 1945. So here's a picture of what the Salinas Rodeo Grounds detention center looked like in 1942. Thousands of people were processed through, most of the people from Salinas and the surrounding area, Monterey, Watsonville, Gilroy, were processed through this center. I believe it started to take people in April of 1942. And this is from the website of Densho. Densho is an organization that has been compiling video interviews of internees, oral histories, data of sorts to keep a record of what has happened this period in time. Very commendable organization for doing this. And this is a remarkable photograph showing the scale of the operation that was taking place to relocate the Japanese Americans. So one of the sad stories, or perhaps infuriating stories that has been recorded, is that perhaps the U.S. government, to their credit, has saw to it that the prisoners are fed properly and they were providing for food and so on. But the story is that the Japanese Americans at the camp hardly received any meats, but it was being provided by the government. And they were siphoned away by people in charge and sold on the outside for profit for themselves. So it's just one of the examples of some of the atrocious activities that were taking place, people profiting from the suffering of people during this time period. So by 1945, very few people did return back to Salinas, but this was under very, very difficult conditions. The returning Japanese were not welcome. There's many, many records of various activities done by the Salinas politicians and people to prevent people from coming back. There were even California Senate hearing held in Salinas to have a hearing to hear people's opinions about whether they wanted the Japanese back or not. And overwhelming number of people in Salinas did not want the Japanese back. Now, to credit of some other towns like Monterey, they took issues with this and collected signatures in support of the Japanese Americans. So it wasn't just only one-sided, but this was fairly few and far in between. Mostly the Japanese were not treated well. They were turned away from businesses, got terrible treatment when they returned. So out of probably 300 families, over 300 families that was at Salinas at the time before the war, only 26 returned back to Salinas, and they faced immense difficulty getting their life back. This is insult to injury. Most of them had lost everything as a result of the internment, but they fought back and reclaimed their life to their credit. All of us here in Salinas today owe a great debt of gratitude to these pioneers that risked everything to restart their life back in Salinas. So as a result of their efforts, many more people returned back to Salinas and got things back more or less to normal again over many, many years. So this photo shows Reverend Fujimura. He originally went to Chicago to become a minister there, but the temple membership here asked Reverend Fujimura to return back to tend to us again. He resigned his post in Chicago to come back and serve with Salinas congregation again for several years. So here's a picture of Reverend Fujimura with his wife in 1947. And from there, I think he went to Orange County, I think, and he served for a long time until his retirement in VCA. So here's a photograph from 1949, 25th anniversary of the temple founding. There are more people have returned, and the temple is slowly growing back. Perhaps never to its original size, but gaining strength during this time period. February 11, 1952, the reason for this photograph was a very important event for the history of the temple. Gomonshu Kosho Otani, he was 23rd Gomonshu of the Nihon Ganji, makes a visit to Salinas. I believe this was the first time the Gomonshu, the head abbot of Nihon Ganji, ever paid a visit to Salinas, and obviously it was a major event, affirmation of the importance of Salinas Temple and coming back after the wartime period. Around 1970 or late 1960s, what happens is that many Issei immigrant comes to Salinas as flower growers, and they bring their family with them to start the flower nursery in the late 60s. During this period, over 60 families eventually joined the temple, which completely revitalized the temple. I myself is one of those families. I was 12, 13 years old at the time. So this was an important event, March 3rd, 1974. This is the 50th anniversary of Buddhist Women's Association. Also a groundbreaking ceremony for the new temple building. It was attended by Bishop Tsuji at the time. This is Bishop Tsuji, and numerous other ministers, some former ministers of ours and ministers from other temples. And many of these ladies are original people, families that returned back from the internment camp. Many of them are flower grower ladies. It includes my mom and my grandmother as well. Brings back memories. So in 1976, the original temple building is replaced by this brand new temple, Hondo. It was completed in 1976 and still standing today. So this was a photograph taken at the completion of our temple. Unfortunately, the minister that we had at the time, Reverend Iwai, passed away shortly before this inauguration of our temple. It was a very sad occasion when he passed away, but it was attended by Mrs. Iwai, his wife, here, along with Bishop Tsuji, along with many temple ministers from other temples. So here's a photograph of Reverend Iwai. He came to Salinas in 1972. A remarkable minister. And he first thing he did was to undergo this cleaning of the Onaijin. This is the altar for the first time in really 50 years after installation. It's not an easy thing. These Onaijin altar is covered in gold leaf. It's not very easy or technically difficult to do any cleaning, but he managed to get this done with the help of all the members, and it was a remarkable work. And but unfortunately, in 1975, he dies of a massive heart attack, and he had so much to do with the design of our new temple. And if it wasn't for him, we would not have gotten the temple building built. So some of the things that he's done, he built this scale model. We have it at the entrance of the temple at the present time. He designed the building, the interior. He worked with the contractors and followed it through every step of the way. So we all great debt of gratitude to Reverend Iwai for having the temple building that we have today. Another big project that the temple undertook started in 1994. The old YBA hall that was there since the 1930s were demolished, and in its place we built a brand new building. This was completed in 1995 on the occasion of 70th anniversary. A year late, but nevertheless, it was a very, very major achievement for the temple to have this building made. So here is the grand opening celebration. It was led by Les Kaneshiro, and Mary Iwamoto and Frank Oshita. Frank Oshita was the president of the temple at the time. I think Mary Iwamoto was a BWA president. Les Kaneshiro, over the years, he's been a major contributor to the temple. Unfortunately, all of them are no longer with us, but it's through their effort that we have the building, the temple that we have today. The 1999 marked the second time the Gomanshu. This time the Koshin Otani, the 24th Gomanshu, visited Salinas. And this was obviously a big event for us. Resident minister at the time was Reverend Shinseki. He's Gomon, the pointer. So resident minister Shinseki Gomonshu, bishop at the time. I think this is Reverend Watanabe with many kids and ladies of the temple. So I've shown this before. This is the last group photograph of our temple congregation. It took place on the occasion of the 90th anniversary of our temple in 2014 with Bishop Umezu. The resident minister at the time, Reverend Fujikawa, former ministers Matsubayashi, Takemura, and Reverend Shinseki. And the kids are dressed in the Heian garb of the Ojigo-san. It was a very fun event. Our next big event will be for our 100th anniversary event to be held 2024. So that was the trip through memory lane. I hope you enjoyed seeing these old photographs. Thank you very much. Hi, we are Chado Urasenke Monterey Tankokai. In this slide presentation, we will be talking about Japanese tea ceremony, its origins, and how it is practiced. We exist to promote a particular school of tea ceremony, which is called Urasenke School of Tea. We started our organization in 1971. Our members comes from Salinas, Monterey, Carmel, Watsonville, and Santa Cruz. We have certified teachers that provide instructions on tea ceremony. We meet several times a year to conduct tea ceremony events. And we also provide or conduct demonstrations of our tea ceremonies in local events such as Obon festivals and also in local colleges. Now, I would like to talk a little bit more detail about our organization. The official title of our School of Tea is Urasenke Konnichian School of Tea. It is based in Japan with following all over the world. Within the continental United States, Hawaii, and in Canada, there are over 30 organizations like us that promote the Urasenke Chado tradition. And in Japan, there are probably several hundred organizations that practice this tea ceremony. We are the largest tea ceremony group in Japan and in the world. The origin of the school, it was started by Sen Rikyu, who lived from 1522 to 1591 in Japan. And here's a picture of Sen Rikyu. The headquarters is located in Kyoto, Japan. So we have a generational leader of Urasenke tea ceremony. His name is Sen Soshitsu, the 16th Zabosai. He is current Oiemoto, which means he's a tea master of Urasenke house. And Oiemoto stands, literally means head of the household. He has been our Oiemoto since 2002. He is the 16th generation head of Urasenke school. And he's a direct descendant of Sen Rikyu, the picture I showed earlier. The Oiemoto, or the headmaster, prior to Sen Soshitsu, was his father. His name is Hounsai Sengen Shitsu. He served as the Oiemoto from 1964 to 2002. He is the 15th generation head of Urasenke. Hounsai Sengen Shitsu is the man that spread the Urasenke school tea all over the world. He spent several years in the United States when he was a young man to initiate the start of several groups within Hawaii and also in the United States. He has an interesting background. When he was very, very young, during the war, he was a fighter pilot, and he was assigned to the kamikaze squadron, and he was to die there, but somehow he avoided this fate. And since the war, he decided to use the tea ceremony as means of promoting world peace, and he succeeded in that respect. And he has served as the representative to United Nations, for example, by the government of Japan. He is quite famous in Japan in world tea and also in various uh, uh, cultural functions in Japan. He's over 90 years old at the moment. The Urasenke House is located in Kyoto, and they have been in this location since probably early 1600s. So it is has very long history. The photograph you see here is the entrance to the Urasenke compound. It is sort of like the iconic symbol of Urasenke house. And inside it, they have several beautiful tea rooms, gardens, and they themselves are quite famous and probably at the rank of national treasure of Japan because of their antiquity and importance in Japanese art and in the world of tea. Because of their extensive network of associations all over the world, they have a fairly good website at www.urasenke.org.jp. They have both the English and the Japanese version of the website there. So now let's talk about why the tea ceremony. Why do something like this at all? So the Japanese tea ceremony is deeply rooted in Zen Buddhism. It was originally used as means of purifying thought, purifying the body. Tea, traditionally, when it was introduced in Japan, was from China and for medicinal purposes. And it was actually Zen Buddhism that took up the consumption of tea. They used it for their meditation and so on. The thing about the Zen Buddhism is that they philosophically they like to reduce everything to its bare essence. Simplicity is treasured, and the tea ceremony is quite similar in that regard because of their Zen Buddhism roots. It has profoundly influenced Japanese art, culture, and view of the world. And for a long time, it was considered, the tea ceremony, the practice of it was considered part of three essential skills and knowledge a cultured person should have in Japan, along with poetry and knowledge of ceramics. So the standing of the tea ceremony, the chado, is called, was quite important in consideration of education, culture. And the tea ceremony was long practiced by the samurai class, who also took up Zen Buddhism to obtain peace and tranquility in the act of serving and being served tea. So you could imagine the samurai class who in the 1500 was literally in the business of killing each other. They are vying for power in Japan, fighting various clans from different regions. So they sought and found refuge in the practice of tea to provide some peace of mind during the time when they practiced the tea ceremony. It's a kind of an interesting juxtaposition of the brutal nature of their existence and the practices and tea ceremony. So one can find what tea ceremony is all about from its motto that the tea has. It's called Wakkei Seijaku, so 4-character Chinese character, and it means harmony, respect, purity, tranquility. So this is what the tea ceremony attempts to achieve in its practice. And how the tea ceremony practice is viewed when the ceremony is held sort of reflects the view of life. It's sort of goes back to its Zen roots. This character is called Ichigo Ichie. Literally, what it means is that one treasures the unrepeatable nature of each encounter. Each moment is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So when the tea ceremony is practiced, this is one of the most important ideas in doing the tea ceremony. Start with the environment where tea ceremony is often held. The practice is to have this in a tea room. I'm sure you have seen some of this in the various places. Many Japanese garden has this tea house. It's used exclusively for tea ceremony. And it is a very, very simple structure, very esoteric. Much of the decor concept comes from the Zen practice. That is to reduce everything to its bare essence. Simplicity is treasured. One thing I should point out, the entrance to the tea house is tiny. This is small entrance is the only way you can get in and out from the tea house. And this came about during this warring nation period as the samurais were practicing this. The way it worked was that you cannot get through this small entrance with a sword. You're supposed to leave the sword outside. So that was the intent. Once you enter the tea room, you're no longer enemy. You are simply there to serve and receive tea. So the warrior doing this tea ceremony, practice of tea, found peace and tranquility when you are in this space. So there are tea utensils that goes with tea ceremony, and they are genuine work of art. There are extensive use of fine ceramics, the urushi lacquer coating used in this. This is a tea container, whisk made by all natural things, bamboo. The scoop used to pick the powder tea from the container is made out of bamboo. The ceramic used for tea is individually made. Very oftentimes they use a fairly special grade of clay that is conducive to conducting heat and is fairly lightweight. And as such, they tend to be very, very delicate and needs to be taken care of with utmost care. Now, let's talk about the tea itself that is used in the tea ceremony. It is matcha, it's powder tea, and probably in recent times, the matcha has gotten quite a bit more popular than in the past. So you probably have seen it, but the actual matcha used in the tea ceremony is very, very special. The, the processing required to make this type of tea is rather involved. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. The tea itself is grown under a cover to cut out the light during the key part of the growth of the tea leaves. And the reason for that is that by reducing the light, the tea leaves avoids the formation of a chemical called catechins, which actually causes a somewhat bitter taste to the tea. So by growing the tea leaves under this kind of condition provides a very mellow flavor to the tea itself. So you could imagine having to do this type of cultivation requires a considerable amount of effort and expense. And the tea leaves are very quickly steamed and under high temperature and dried. This provides this a green color to the tea. And it is this way green because if you do not do this, the tea oxidizes and turns brown. So this process was invented in Japan, and this is what is done for most tea and includes the matcha as well. So another thing I should mention is that the matcha tea uses only the leaves. Doesn't include stem, even the what do you call it? The main central part of the leaves. That is removed, so that only the leaf part is used for making the powder. And they have to use this stone mill to make sure that nothing is imparted to the taste of the tea. So this type of grinding process is automated nowadays, but it is obviously becomes a fairly expensive process to use. But it does end up providing you this matcha powder that is quite beautiful. So the end product is often packaged in this sort of a tiny container, probably about 100 grams. And these series of pictures are from one manufacturer. It's called Saijo, and I took this from their website. They're located in Aichi Prefecture, Japan, and there are many companies like this that produces tea in this manner. And the price of this tea is 7,000 yen per 100 grams. This is about $70. When you consider the fact that a typical high-grade tea for normal consumption at most costs 2,000 yen. These matcha tea for tea ceremony are very, very expensive. Now, I should explain that the tea in Japan then become green until 1738. So before that, it was sort of brownish, sort of like the oolong tea. And there's a history behind it. There was a farmer in a place called Uji, which is near Kyoto. His name is Nagatani Soen. He discovers a special process to keep the tea green during the processing and to prevent oxidation of the tea leaves. So this became very widespread, used across all of the tea, and that's when the tea in Japan became green. So it is relatively a recent phenomenon. So I should mention that the character for tea, cha, this chairo, this character means brown, both in Japanese and Chinese. So for a long time, tea was brown, not green. So this brings us to Sen Rikyu, lived from 1522 to 1591. He's also called Sen no Rikyu. He is by far the most famous tea master in Japan's history. He worked as a tea master for Nobunaga, one of the warlords that almost took over the control of Japan. He was a particularly ruthless guy, but promoted many cultural activities at the same time. And Rikyu was the tea master for Nobunaga. Nobunaga was such a brutal character. One of his generals assassinates him before he can take control of the country. So right after that, one of his other generals, Hideyoshi, takes control of Japan, and Hideyoshi keeps Rikyu as his tea master. Hideyoshi was extremely fond of the tea practice. Because of this, Sen Rikyu becomes enormously influential under Hideyoshi, and Hideyoshi's other ministers becomes quite jealous about Sen Rikyu's influence, over Hideyoshi. So they conspire to put Rikyu in bad light for Hideyoshi, and Hideyoshi ends up believing his other ministers and believes that Rikyu was basically plotting against him and ask him to commit seppuku, basically kill himself. And that was the end of Sen-Rikyu. But what happens afterwards is that Rikyu's sons continue to practice the tea ceremony activity, becoming tea master for various other important warlords, and his descendants continue the so-called Rikyu's school of tea. So in the present day, there are three schools of Senke, the Senke Sen's family. There is Omote Senke, and Ura Senke, and Mushakoji. They're all run by the descendant of Sen-Rikyu. The one that we belong to in Monterey Dankokai, we belong to this Ura Senke school. The difference in practice is relatively minor, but but many hundreds of years have taken since these schools have separated into three. So there are some differences in the way the tea is practiced. So now I'd like to show an example of a tea ceremony, which one can find in YouTube. This one is particularly good, very well done, and I'd like to give them the right attribution. It is done in Japanese, and it has a subtitle, looks like maybe generated by YouTube automatically. The translation is not quite right. So the subtitle you will see is mine. It does go very quickly, so apologize for this, but the video itself is very well done. So please enjoy this video.
茶の湯とはただ湯を沸かし茶を立てて飲むばかりなることと知るべしってことが、お湯を沸かしてお茶を立てて飲むだけのことなんです。たったそれだけのことなんだけど、清めてあるきれいなはずのものをもう一回清める。茶碗だって洗ってあるし、それをもう一回清める。それは相手に対する思いやりですよね。で、そうしてくれることを客は見て、あ、こんなにも大切に扱ってくれてるんだなってありがたく思う。で、気持ちが一つになっていくわけ。それからこう一つのテーマに沿った物語が始まる。まず部屋に入るときは軸を見て、あ、今日はこんなテーマで、こんな趣向でお席があるのかな。で、花を見て、ああ、こんな花がもう咲き出したなっていうのを知り、釜を見て、あ、釜がよく起きてるな。美味しいお茶が立ちそうだなって言って、お客様は座るんです。日本の感覚っていうのは省略の美なんですよ。盛り込むんではなくて、削って削って、これ以上削れないっていうところに却下を見るっていうところが楽しみ方なんですね。だから一輪の花の向こうに咲き誇る姫皿の木を想像できたら最高なんです。竹ようよう清風を起こす。あ、暑い時期になってきたから涼しげな風を。もう昔はエアコンとかないじゃないですか。暖房もエアコンも空調がない中にいて、だからせめてイマジネーションで涼しさを感じるように。 温かさを感じるようにっていう工夫がそこに現れている。抹茶っていうものはですね、一番古い喫茶法なんです。で、中国で始まったんですけれども、もう本当に古い喫茶法で、中国でももうやめてしまったんです。今は抽出という形の飲み方しかしてない。煎茶にしろ、ウーロン茶にしろ、紅茶にしろ、コーヒーにしろ。で、抹茶っていうのは茶葉を粉末にして攪拌して飲むという本当に原始的な飲酒法なんですよ。それがなぜ残ったかっていうのは茶道という形を取ったからなので、私たちがやめてしまったらこの古い喫茶法がなくなってしまうんですね。ないところにものを見るなんていうのは日本的な考え方なんですよ。空白にものを見るってとっても日本的な考えで、絵画もびっちり描くんじゃなくて墨絵のように空白にないものを見るっていうことを、感覚を知ってもらいたい。まどろっこしいような所作でも本当に合理的に考えられて無駄が全くない動きなんですよ。こうやって締め切った中で、外界から遮断された中で自分の中にずっと入っていくって瞑想みたいなものの世界をもっと楽しんでいっていただけたらいいかなって。深みっていうのかな。本当にね、自己探求なので楽しいです。で、哲学でもあるし。だから若い人たちにこういうことに誇りを持っていただいて、形を覚えるだけではなくて、そこに載せていった昔の教えみたいなものを探求していっていただければいいかなと思います。
That is it. The type of tea ceremony activity that we hold, example is shown here. This is during the New Year tea ceremony. We call it Hatsugama. The tea room that we use is actually portable. It can be assembled, and we do this in Buddhist temple Salinas. And the motif is in keeping with New Year's. So it's very important to show the seasonal aspect of the ceremony that is conducted at that time. Now, in recent times, it's not so easy to sit in Japanese tatami. It's rather hard on the knees, and the tea ceremony conducted with a chair is gaining more and more popularity. The format is fairly similar, but it has its own style and so on. So this is our group. It was taken, I think, 2 years ago, and it's a very small group. So I hope you enjoyed our presentation. You can see some of our activity on our Facebook page, Urasenke Tankokai Monterey. So if you are interested in tea ceremony, you can reach us through the connections are listed on our Facebook page. So I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Thank you very much for watching. Hello. This concludes our Obon YouTube live stream programming. I hope you enjoy the program. It has taken a lot longer than originally planned, but if you are watching this later, you can pick and choose the parts that you would like to see. So hopefully it works out okay for you. So thank you very much for watching. And I hope we can join in person next year for the Obon Festival. Thank you very much.